Hello everyone, I am Byung-Yoon Kim, the chairman of the new Consilience group. Today, I would like to take this opportunity to reflect with you on the question mentioned in the first episode. Where do we come from? And where are I going? The answer to this question cannot be found solely in the contemplations of the past philosophers. It must be approached through a consilient reflection that transcends the boundaries of science, philosophy, and religion in the modern day. At the center of this lies the concept of essence of beings, the individual entity called Nosome, and the process of transmigration. These two concepts represent an integrative reflection that penetrates the essence of physics, biology, philosophy, and religion. Furthermore, they are the fundamental insights that must be restored as we pursue a religious revolution. What is Nosome? Nosome is an abbreviation for nothing but something, indicating something that lies beyond the human perception and observation. It appears as nothing within the realm of consciousness, but exists beyond it, an entity that brings all things in the universe into existence. Even though the derivative beings from it undergo countless mutations and transmigrations, they consistently retain the primordial nature. It can be referred to as the Creator, the Absolute, God, Soul, Spirit, Tao, or as Earth, Water, Fire, Wind, Chi, or Energy. However, these expressions are insufficient to fully describe the essence of Nosome. They merely capture one aspect of it. This concept is closely related to ancient Eastern philosophy, particularly the Buddhist concept of emptiness, Laozi's Wu Wei, and Zhuangzi's Xu. However, the nosome discussed here is not nothingness in the literal sense, but a formless essential state, the entelechy, and the sense of beings. If we think of the universe as an atom, nosome is like a single strand of light within that atom. Everything we experience has form, but the time it retains that form is merely a moment compared to eternity. Matter continuously changes, and all beings exist in a cycle of creation and extinction. The German natural scientist Ernst Haeckel stated the total energy of the universe remains constant through all changes. This energy cannot be separated from matter. It is infinite and eternal. This is not just a philosophical metaphor, but a truth repeatedly proven in modern physics. Quantum physicists predict that the average lifespan of a proton is about 10 to 43 years. Considering that the age of the universe is only 1.38 multiply 10 to 10 years, this is an extraordinary long lifespan, approximately 7.2 multiply 10 to 32 times longer than the age of the universe since the Big Bang. Then how long is the expected lifespan of nosome, the primordial entity and the fundamental building block of all beings? It is indestructible and eternal by its very nature. In other words, the most basic unit of matter must be an immortal entity. This understanding of nosome and transmigration aligns with the core teachings of the enlightened sages. Buddha spoke of the non-fixed self and the Buddhahood inherent in all beings. Jesus proclaimed that Godhood exists not only in himself but also within us. And Siyong Choi of Donghak perceived heavenhood within humanity through the principle of serving people as heaven. Eagleman said, Our red blood cells are replaced every 4 months, our skin every few weeks, and within about 7 years, every atom in our body is replaced. This means that all the entities forming our bodies 7 years ago are gone, and new entities have replaced them. The old materials exited through breathing, excretion, shedding, and sweating, and new substances entered to become part of us. So, where did those departed entities go? The answer lies in the nature of the entity. Those with the imperishable nature of Nosome are transmigrated into the formation or maintenance of other beings. Or, if not, they continue to exist elsewhere because they cannot die. Thus, while we constantly transform into new beings, the energy and particles that form our essence persist in an unbroken flow. This is what we call transmigration. Lord Kelvin stated, if we mark every molecule in a glass of water, pour it into the sea, stir it thoroughly, and then draw another glass from anywhere in the sea, about 100 of those marked molecules will still be present. The glass of water you drink contains molecules that once flowed through the sweat, tears, and urine of all beings who each ever exist. Neil deGrasse Tyson explained, when you inhale, you take in more air molecules than the total number of breaths in the Earth's atmosphere, and when you exhale, your molecules scatter globally. That means each breath you take includes molecules that once passed through the lungs of beings like Jesus, Buddha, Stalin, or any other person. Each sip of water and breath of air contains traces of all life that ever existed. We were once clouds, rocks, water, and parts of animals and plants. Our current bodies consist of approximately 10 multiplied 10 to 27 atoms forming around 30 trillion cells, most of which have been replaced within less than 7 years. Roughly 3.8 million cells were replaced every second. Those that live will transmigrate to other beings, while the void they live is filled by cells that have transmigrated from elsewhere. However, the fundamental building blocks that makes us who we are, atoms, molecules, energy, and traces of consciousness do not disappear, but continue to transmigrate. This flow is in line with Buddhist notions of reincarnation, Jewish mysticism's concept of the cycle of souls, and the quantum physics idea that wave function collapse and probabilistic existence. We are merely beings that transmigrate from one form to another, from one wave to another vibration. Thich Nhat Hanh described the next life of a piece of paper as follows. The heat from burning rises to the sky and becomes clouds, and ashes become part of loads in the earth. The paper never disappears. This truth reflects the very sense of transmigration and the eternal nature of existence. Meanwhile, genetic similarities are evident between all living beings. For example, humans and gorillas share more than 96% of their DNA, while humans and chimpanzees share more than 99%. Around 46% of yeast proteins are also present in humans, and approximately 90% of human protein structural regions are also found in fruit flies and nematode proteins. Even more intriguingly, genes commonly found in organisms with brains are also present in plants that lack them. Dr. Gojobori stated, humans and mice share over 95% of the specified cerebral genes of the planaria, which appeared about 800 million years ago and is known to have the oldest brain among all beings. And most of genes working at the brain have already existed before the advent of the brain and the nervous system in living beings. In geological time, nothing truly dies or is newly created. Everything merely changes form and recirculates. Humans are not human only at one moment. Before that, they were minerals, plants, animals, inanimate matter, and stardust, and they will be so again. This is the shared truth expressed by ancient Buddhist interdependence and the modern law of conservation of mass and energy. Every being flows to a corresponding place according to the frequency of its current vibration. That is transmigration and also rebirth. Transmigration refers not only to the movement of the individual entity, but also the transmission of matter, information, and emotional waves. It is not a symbolic concept, but a real natural phenomenon. All beings are born within similar structures, and after death, their elements disperse back into the universe and nature to be transmigrated into new forms. This is not random, but rather a corresponding transmigration that follows vibrational resonance. Nosome and transmigration fundamentally change how we view ourselves, how we act ethically toward others, and how we treat society and nature. We are not fixed beings. We change moment to moment and are the very agents who determine the form of the next beings. This is not an eschatological or second coming phase, but a philosophy that emphasizes ethical responsibility in the here and now. What kind of vibration are we living with in this world? What state will our inner wave propagate into next? These questions demand a level of self-reflection far deeper than traditional religious repentance. Religious revolution is the process of transforming our framework of understanding. It begins with realizing that the essence of all beings is Nosome and that transmigration is happening at every moment. This realization is the starting point for the new humanity, new community, and new religiosity that we must strive for through this revolution. The core teachings of the enlightened ones all point toward this, to live in accordance with the natural flow of Nosome and transmigration. We no longer wait a fictitious heaven after death. From this moment on this earth, we must awaken to the truth of Nosome and transmigration and live accordingly. That is the path of religious revolution and the new path for humanity. Now we ask, how should we live, knowing the truth of Nosome and transmigration? Let us share this truth and join the journey toward a new religiosity beyond the boundaries of old doctrines. This very moment marks the beginning of the religious revolution. Thank you very much.